Chris. What am I going to do with you? You need to stay in your lane. You really do. You are not, you don't do too well when you venture outside of your lane and you try to go into an area that you don't have any expertise in. I remember back in the day when the word processor was actually cheap enough for most people to have. And the desktop publishing features and software was just coming out. And the first thing they said that is that for the publishing industry and the writing industry, that was the worst thing that could actually happen, because now you're giving the tools to people that cannot wield them. And I'm starting to believe that same thing for Google and for YouTube. So now you got people who really, and they can actually do that, their surface research, and broadcast it out into the world half-cocked. But she does give me this this opportunity to actually kill two birds with one stone, because a lot of my subs have been asking me these two questions on these two topics. What do I think about the slavery in Libya that's going on in Libya, or the current iteration of the scandal of slavery going on in Libya, and about Meghan Markle and Prince Harry, even though I've done a little bit about Meghan Markle and Prince Harry, but I haven't gone into depth. So I will endeavor to actually tackle both of these at the same time, since Princess Karazin did not do it justice. Now, she starts off going off on black people, Hoteps, and conscious black folks that do not like interracial marriage. But they are consistent. They don't like interracial marriage by men or women. Trust and believe, I got enough of them on my channel when I did the James Earl Jones piece. Got damn near 80,000 hits on that video, just because there was a black man and a white woman. Go figure, right? But at least they're consistent. So when she's going in on Hoteps, because they're basically poo-pooing about Meghan Markle and Prince Harry, even though most of them are saying that they really don't care, because Meghan Markle, number one, is biracial and her daddy's white. And number two, she never claimed to be black. So most Hoteps that I know of, or most conscious people that I know of, could really care less about Meghan Markle marrying Prince Harry. What they do get upset about is these bedwenches who can't stand other biracial women, especially when they're marrying black men, and get triggered when a dark-skinned black man dates or marries a woman with lighter skin and softer hair. then that's what they go in on. They go in on the double standard. Even I talked about the double standard. And I could be considered a Hotep or a conscious in the conscious community, and I proudly wear that label. But let's get into Libya, because she's trying to compare the two. She's trying to say they're poo-pooing on her dreamboat or her scenario, and they've been hypocritical because they don't call out the slave master in Libya, while they accuse her and her ilk of sleeping with the enemy or the slave master. Let's get a couple of differences. If a white man is marrying an African woman on the continent, and they're 8 to 10,000 miles away, really most black folks in America could really give a crap. That's over there. 90% of the time, Asians, like Chinese and white people, have been marrying Africans over there for, God, since since about 600 years. That's been going on. And most black people in America could give a crap, because those white people that are over on the continent didn't enslave us like these white people here. And we didn't have to go through Jim Crow or get shot down by the police or harassed by their laws or all the other things that black people have to endure on a daily basis in the United States. That is a different story. So let's get that out of the way. The oppressors over there are not the oppressors over here. Here in America, we're all black. We go on the continent, we ain't all black. You got over 3,000 different tribes on the continent of Africa, and they all know who they are. In fact, they do sometimes kill each other or enslave each other or other kinds of mishaps that people do to each other. Even though we don't talk about the Russian slaves that are held in Los Angeles and they're right under our nose. But we'll get into that part later. Now, when I looked at this story, because I wanted to be accurate, because I didn't want to go off half-cocked like Miss Chris did. Now, she's poo-pooing that all these poor people locked in cages and the babies and the kids and they're being sold on the auction block, and she feels so pitiful about it. And how can we let this travesty go on because they're just selling this flesh off like left and right? And she said there's pictures and stuff like that, and CNN has actually had the expose. So I go to the original report that CNN has uncovered and has broken the story on. And they have two videos of, three people being sold. And these videos, quote unquote, had been smuggled out, quote unquote, by some, I could be one of the smugglers, because they're the only ones who could actually be in on it, right? And they were sold to these reporters. Now, these reporters had been in Libya for 3 years, and the only thing they could come up with, other than rumors and reports of people that had said they had been sold, the only two things they actually come up with that was solid were these two videos that had been sold to them by a third party. So they were not verified. So we don't know if these are legit on the ground happenings as we see it, or these were staged so that these particular people could make a profit. We don't know. So those two things in question. Now, the pictures that they were showing in the broad daylight about the babies and the kids and the women and all these people crowded behind these cages weren't cages. They were actually in what we call a third world detention facility. Now, they're not as clean and air conditioned, and they don't look like the prisons or the detention facility that we have in the first world, the rich United States, because guess what? They're not in the rich United States. They're in Libya, which is right now a shithole of a country. That's where the babies and the other faces came in that were behind the bars. Now, the slave markets, the illicit slave markets that happen to be going on, are actually done at night and in secret warehouses and secret locations behind the government's back. So it wasn't like the Libyan government is just wholesaling, snatching people up, dragging them in and selling them off. That's not true. They are actually actively trying to find these smugglers that are trafficking people, which they have been doing since, I would say, some reports say 2001, some reports say 2006. And Gaddafi in 2006, he actually did a crackdown on it and actually got rid of most of the illicit trafficking of people, and did so until he was deposed by white people, which are the French, the British, and the Americans, and killed and turned Libya into this virtual shithole that it is now. So you expect people in this failed state that have been in this failed state for 6 or 7 years to actually worry about smugglers trafficking their immigrants. Now let's get the second part straight. Okay, these people are not, these folks are not going down into sub-Saharan Africa and snatching these people out of the villages and actually bringing them into slavery. So this is not chattel slavery. These are immigrants trying to get to Europe through Libya to go across the Mediterranean. And the vast majority of them either make it or they're sent back. But there are like maybe 20,000 a year that actually get lost in the system. And of that 20,000 that get lost in the system, the vast majority wind up in the detention camps that Crystal Kerrigan was actually looking at, where the women and the children and whatnot were actually there. Now, the ones that fall out of that particular filter, for lack of a better term, now those are the ones that don't get caught. They don't make it to where they're going, and they get stuck in no man's land. So they're too far away to go back. They can't go forward, so they're stuck, and they still have to eat, and they still have to have water. And that means the smugglers, or what we call here the coyotes, have to take care of them. And they don't do it for free. So if the people do not have money to keep their upkeep from the smugglers, guess what they have to do? They're sold off as day laborers to work. And the auction that you saw, if it was indeed legit, and I have my doubts about that, because it was never verified. And even during the report, they were saying that they were asking an official that was running one of the refugee detention facilities whether he knew about the trafficking, the slavery. And he said he heard reports, but they could not prove it because they had not seen it, because it is out of sight. And nobody's talking why it's going on, because what? The people that are actually involved being sold as day laborers aren't supposed to be there. And the people selling them aren't supposed to be doing what they're doing. And the people buying the labor aren't supposed to be doing that. So we have a three-way what? Illegal activity. So guess who's talking? Nobody. Now, this was originally reported, and Kerrigan didn't do enough of her homework, because she said, oh, hasn't been reported. And this just popped up, and we're just finding out about it. Now, I found one article from Time in 2016 where they were actually talking about this. Now, Time, the last time I heard, Time magazine is pretty famous. It's pretty famous, but it was there. So it was reported on. Did CNN do it? No. And I do believe Essence.com, I do believe he actually reported on this. I had to check it. I think it was 2015. I don't have it in front of me, but they also did it. Also, the original report that CNN was talking about goes back to April of 2017. That's the CNN report. That's what they're reporting on this particular incident. Now, my information, when I originally found out about it, it was 2011, right after Gaddafi fell. In fact, they were beating the migrant workers that Gaddafi had hired. Now, Gaddafi had hired millions of migrant workers to come in and do groundwork, work the oil fields, do a whole bunch of other stuff. So Gaddafi was actually hiring millions of people because he didn't have enough people to build his infrastructure. So he hired outside African people. Now, when you kill Gaddafi, who had been there for like 42 years, when you kill him, then the old racism comes back up between the Arabs and the black folks. And once Gaddafi's gone, guess what? The mob takes over, and some of the black migrants escaped. Most of them escaped, went back to where they came from. Some of them went to Europe, the ones that could. Some of them didn't make it. They were killed by the mobs. In fact, you have pictures. I'm not going to show the pictures of burnt black bodies where the Arab Spring people that we paid, United States, France, and the UK paid to actually go after Gaddafi. They actually committed atrocities against these black people. And I have pictures of burnt bodies, lines and lines of burnt bodies where these people actually did that. This was reported on. Now, they cleared out whole migrant towns of black people. Some got killed, some got deported, and some went into slavery, or what we called indentured servitude. Unlike chattel slavery in the United States, they do not keep you for life. Okay. They keep you for a certain period of time, just like old English law, and then you're released. They send you home. 99% of the people that were actually slave workers or laborers or however it was, 99% of them actually got sent back home. Those are the ones that are talking said they were actually were enslaved. These current people that are actually enslaved that we're talking about are actually not sold off by the population that are in Libya. They're actually farmed out by the smugglers to pay their debts. The vast majority of them. Can't vouch for all, but the vast majority of them, as is reported, were actually loaned out on a day labor, and they actually had to do the work until they could actually pay their bill to either be sent home or actually go to wherever they're going. And it sounds like it's such an atrocity. The Arabs are actually doing things that hasn't been done in 150 years, and it doesn't happen anymore. And if it were white people, they would be reported. Number one, it's not visible. That's number one. It's not visible. Number two, the Hoteps, as you would call it, have been talking about it. Now, the Sudanese lady that talked about slavery in Libya, did you ask her about the Sudanese slavery going on in her own country? Which is a reason that the Muslims in the north and the Christians and others in the south had to split. Because the Sudanese tribes, some of the Sudanese tribes were selling the other Sudanese into indentured servitude. You didn't ask her about that. That's it. You actually looked it up. I actually had an article. I might post the article. There's too many articles, but they actually had many, many articles about the Sudanese slavery and the trafficking that was going on in Sudan, held for 20 years. In fact, it ended. Most of it ended in 2005, 2006, when during the Civil War, where they actually separated. But you didn't do your homework. But that's not your gig. You're a swirler. You're supposed to teach Black women how to get white men, which I don't see you doing a very good job of that. But be that as is may. But your makeup is good. I like your makeup videos. Stick to that. Now, my second point in this particular vein, I'm not going to the second half just yet. All you Prince Harry, Meghan Markle fanatics, just hold on, hold your horses. I got one more point to actually dig in, and Chris is behind. Second point. She says that it's Arab slavery and it's been going on for centuries, and it has. And this is so wrong and so pitiful. She doesn't talk about the same thing going on with Russian prostitutes that have been smuggled into the country, and they can't escape their pimp or their handlers until they pay off their debts because they've come here illegally. Or the Chinese that do the same thing, have them working in shops and factories illegal because they've been brought in illegally, and they have to be indentured servants to pay off their debt. Or get this, I was so perplexed about slavery in North America. Guess who else does the same thing that the Libyan smugglers do? You guessed it. If the coyotes can't get their people across the border, and they're actually stuck on the other side of the border, and their money runs out, guess what they do to their transportees, their immigrants? What do? They farm them out to do work with the cartel. They farm them out to do day work, digging ditches and whatever else there is to be done to the cartel until they pay off their debt, until they can get them across the border. Same thing that the Libyan or the Arab smugglers do. Exact same thing. Oh, contraire, I'm not finished yet. The pièce de résistance. Guess who also does this? ICE. When they catch illegal immigrants and they put them in private prisons, even though they have technically committed no crime, they're actually made to work for $1 a day, sometimes doing various tasks. Sometimes they could be cleaning up the facilities. Sometimes they could be working in shops. Sometimes they could be, who knows, picking vegetables. But because of a curious law where you can force labor onto prisoners, illegal immigrants are actually forced into day servitude by who? The American government, white people. The same way that the coyotes do, in the same way that the Libyan smugglers do, or the same way that the Russian mob does to its hookers, or the Chinese mob does to its immigrant workers who have to work off of debt. But it's so horrible that black people of flesh are being sold all the way like 10,000 miles away in Libya. And we live in Los Angeles, and it happens right under our nose, or right across our border. The border in Los Angeles is like 130 miles away. And where Chris lives, it's probably a lot less than that, probably like less than 50. So 50 miles, you have slavery, day slavery, the same kind of slavery you have in Libya. Exact same thing, a lot closer. In fact, a lot of them actually don't make it. They get killed, or they wind up dying in the back of a heated container truck, never to be seen again. Or with the coyotes, they have little children, and they actually harvest organs from the little kids, from the little immigrant kids, if nobody can pay their debts. But she's so concerned about some immigrants 10,000 miles away, but she's not concerned about what's happening 50 miles from her border. Shame on you, Chris. I'm shocked at your lack of concern. Poor little bedwench. It's continuing. Now, for you Meghan Markle fans, Prince Harry fans, because I had one of my subs, man, he was bugging me about Prince Harry and Meghan Markle. I could care less about Prince Harry and Meghan Markle. Heck, I didn't even know who the woman was until Prince Harry put a ring on it. Okay? They didn't even know who she was. But let's get into this. The reason there has to be a lot of exception to this rule, because 1, she's not a virgin. 2, she's not young. 3, she's not European. 4, she's been married before. Now you take all that, that's probably way more important than the color that she is. Now her father is connected to royalty. She's a very, very distant cousin, but she still has royal blood flowing through her veins, which is probably the most important thing. I was telling one of my subs that the royals don't marry willy-nilly. He was saying that Prince Harry is a simp. I kind of doubt that. Anybody runs around with a swastika on his arm during a party, I don't think he's a simp. And I do believe he was part of the armed forces, if I'm not mistaken. So simp doesn't being a prince and being a soldier, for lack of a better term, in the military. I don't think that qualifies you as being a simp. I think that's pretty much being a macho man, especially if you're brandishing a swastika. You got to have a few balls to actually brandish a swastika, especially in the UK. But be that as it may. Now, you say, with all these things that she has not going for, why did one, Prince Harry pick her, and 2, why did the Queen and the Crown agree to this wedding, agree to this marriage? Because if you're royalty, you just can't run out and marry people. Don't work that way. She has to be on the approved list for whatever reason. Now, why is Meghan Markle on this approved list? Most royal marriages are a political statement. So to understand that, you have to understand what is going on in the UK right now. And there's 2 political things going on in the UK. One is the influx of immigrants of color, especially from what we call Western Asia and South Asia, which is India, Pakistan, Syria, and even some African migrants coming up from Nigeria and the likes. And you have to integrate these people. And these people don't always mix in quite well. And some of the white people don't like them because they don't mix in quite well. So what kind of symbol do you send to them to say that it's okay to mix in with these people? You have your Prince marry a biracial woman who doesn't look white or is classified as non-white. Get it? Got it? Good. Second item on this, and this is the last one because I know this is getting long. The UK is going through the Brexit, which is a separation from the EU, because they're leaving one coalition. And once they become unmoored, no country like the UK stands outside by itself. It's not big enough. It's not the United States. So they have to partner. So who are they going to partner with? They're going to partner with what they used to have, which is their Commonwealth. So what are they trying to do? They're trying to get the band back together. Now, Australia is good. Canada's good. But the vast majority of your Commonwealth is where? People of color, the Caribbean, Africa. So where did Prince Harry carry his then girlfriend when they were courting and dating? Oh, CK, did you notice that they went to Africa? I believe they went to 6 or 7 countries toured 6 or 7 countries in Africa, if I'm not mistaken. And I do believe most of those countries were part of their old Commonwealth. I wonder why he did that. Now, he could have taken any white woman, blonde, blue-eyed, that looks like his mother, and toured all of Africa if he wanted to. So why would the prince take a divorced woman as his girlfriend, who's also biracial, non-white, and tour all over Africa showing her off? And then after he does that, he gets engaged to her. Oh, does 1 + 1 make 2? I think it does. Does he love her? I hope so. Does he care for her? I do believe so. Is it political? Most definitely. So it's not the fairy tale Prince Charming and Cinderella where true love conquers all. It's a very well crafted story. Meghan Markle, just like any other royal, will fill her role. Everybody knows what the gig is. So let's be honest. While I really don't care about Meghan Markle or Prince Harry or who he's married to, in fact, most of the black people in the UK that I actually asked, they really don't care about Meghan Markle and Prince Harry getting married because to them, she's not black. Get it? Got it? Good. So while the swirlers are all a Twitter about Prince Harry marrying Meghan Markle and cheering that their black queen, as they put it, could really care less about them. We'll walk down the aisle, in Buckingham Palace and get married. Most of people like me, most Hoteps like me, could really care less. But we will use it to point out a double standard, just like I did. Because when Tyrese married his biracial woman, he called her his black queen. Oh, y'all got upset. But anyway, I hope this wraps it up. Chris, I'm so disappointed. You went to this big old expensive school, and I know damn well it's expensive because I couldn't afford to go there. And I went to school down the street from it for let me count it, for a good 10 years. I used to play pickup basketball in the gym but I couldn't afford to go there. But you went to this expensive ass school and got this expensive ass training. And this is the quality of work that you bring me. I'm so ashamed. At first I was going to get mad. Like, how dare she? And then halfway through it, it started to get funny. I said, she has no idea what she's talking about. And she has no clue about what she's talking about. And she kind of reminds me of my ex, though. She really does. My ex would get all the Twitter and all mad and just, if you could tell her what to do, she'll follow it. She'll follow it to the letter. She's very good at that. But if she has to think outside the box, it's like I used to tell her, baby, just sit down and be pretty. Okay, just sit over there and be pretty and don't talk too much. I think Miss Kerrison is in that vein. Just put on your makeup, sit over there and be pretty and don't talk too much. With that, I'm going to get out of here. I'm joking. I'm going to get out of here. This is BG. Out.